In this video, I'm going to show you how to test a dual run capacitor in your AC's outside condensing unit. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's go change and get this done. Come on. One of the most common parts that fail on an air conditioner is a capacitor. The capacitor is one of the things that a technician would check if he came out to troubleshoot why an air conditioner wasn't working. It's also one of the things manufacturers recommend that you should check every year, because once it starts getting weak, it starts to damage the motors it's supposed to be running. At this point, you really should replace it. I'm going to show you how to test a dual run capacitor and how to tell if a dual run capacitor needs to be replaced. Most residential units like this one are going to have a dual run capacitor at the outside unit. First thing we're going to do is cut the power. There should be a disconnect or a breaker close by. Remove the disconnect or shut off the breaker. Next, follow the electrical wires coming out of the disconnect and see where they go into the air conditioner unit. There should be an access panel there. We're going to remove the screws and take that cover plate off. Now, before we disconnect anything, go ahead and snap a picture so that you know how to hook the wires back up when you're done. Now, a capacitor stores electricity, so before you touch anything, we want to discharge any excess electricity. We're going to take our screwdriver and touch it across the terminals. Now we can remove the wires. The capacitor should be held in place by a strap that's screwed into the side of the air conditioner. Loosen that up and remove the capacitor. Now, normally I would just test this here at the unit and then put it back in, but there's a few more things that I want to tell you about capacitors, so we're actually going to take this into the garage and show you some stuff. Now, if you are checking your capacitor and you see bulging or something leaking out the side, you can probably skip the testing phase and go straight to replacing it. But if it looks okay, all you're going to need to test it is a meter that measures microfarads. A capacitor should have a label on the side of it. You're going to see 2 microfarad numbers because there's technically 2 capacitors inside this one unit. You'll also see a tolerance represented by a plus or minus number. Sometimes it has a percentage next to it. This means that the capacitor can do its job without damaging the motors as long as it's within that range. The numbers on your capacitor may be different than mine, but the way that you determine whether it's good or not will be the same. First, we need to do a little bit of math to find the tolerance. My capacitor is plus or minus 5%. So what we're going to do is multiply each microfarad number by 5%. To get the minus 5%, we're going to multiply times 0.95. To get the plus 5%, we're going to multiply times 1.05. This gives us a tolerance between 33.25 microfarads and 36.75 microfarads for the compressor, and 4.75 to 5.25 for the fan. These are the ranges that the capacitor needs to test between in order to determine whether it's good or bad. All right, now that we have those numbers, we're actually going to take our tester and we're going to set it to measure capacitance or microfarads. But keep in mind, whatever reading we get when we're testing the capacitor, if that falls above or below the tolerance, the number that we just came up with, it's out of the manufacturer's recommended tolerance and it should be replaced. Now, when we're identifying which terminal we're going to test, my capacitor is actually all rusted out on top and you can't tell the labeling. It'll have C for common, Herm for compressor, and fan for fan. But if it's rusted out and you can't tell, a lot of times you can tell by the number of prongs that are on the terminal. So first we're going to find the common terminal. Look for a C or look for the terminal that has 4 prongs. Then stick the black probe of your tester on it. Next, find the compressor terminal. It'll either have Herm or 3 prongs on it. Stick the red probe on it. Then watch your tester, and does that number fall within the acceptable range? Mine looks like it is right on the edge of being out of range. Next, we're going to test the fan terminal, which should be the other one, but look for it labeled fan or having 1 or 2 prongs. And then does that reading fall within the acceptable range? Looks like mine is spot on. Remember, a dual run capacitor technically has 2 capacitors built into this one device. But if one side of it, or if one of those capacitors isn't working, you have to replace the whole unit. Even if your system is still running, it's good to be proactive as it starts to get weak, because the longer the compressor or the fan runs on a weak capacitor, the more it will shorten the life of those components. And those components, the fan and the compressor, they're not cheap to replace, especially when you compare it to the cost of one of these dual run capacitors. So the way that mine is, I'm going to go ahead and make a video about replacing a capacitor. One, because it's on that weak end of the tolerance and I need another video to make. For now, let's go ahead and put this thing back in. I hope yours is actually okay and you feel good about testing it and you know that yours is working. So let's go put this back. Okay, so now we can button everything up. As long as you have a meter that can measure microfarads, you should be able to test your capacitor. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Until next time, good luck with your next project, and if you ever feel like you've gotten in over your head, it's okay to ask for help. Thanks for watching. See ya.